The biggest robber of this is time or the lack thereof. Welcome, Psych fans, to another fun-filled, action-packed day of psychology. Glad to have you with us. We're excited because we have a lot of fun, attached things to talk about today as a tidbit of insight into what we are visiting, the topic we're visiting today. My name is Spence Kohler, and my other host with the most is
Allison Fabricius over here in my recording closet. Very excited to pick up where Spencer's pun left off.
now you're attached to it.
Yep.
Oh man. Oh boy.
Oh, we're doomed.
Yeah, we're
We're
doomed.
doomed.
All
So
the dad jokes we could come up with. Boy.
I'm living for him. I'm here for him. So I was gonna try and be all clinical and serious and approach this with definitions and things. And then that just didn't sit right and feel right. So instead, I decided to take my cue from Spencer.
Uh-oh.
So, so hey, Spencer, would you be so kind as to ask me the question you asked before we started recording that kicked us off on all of this?
Oh, what are we going to talk about today, Allison?
No, the other question you asked.
I
Because
forgot.
remember, okay, well,
What what
that's
what good question did I ask you?
well, we were having a fun, delightful conversation.
Oh, is it about why
Uh-huh.
why
Mm-hmm.
why are we always seeking approval, Allison? Why do we always need? Yeah, that's what we're looking for.
Yep, that's what we're looking for. Why do we
Yeah.
seek for validation?
Oh man, why do we need to be validated all the time? Psh, that stupid validation stuff.
Well, the fun thing is that actually is all about attachment styles. That
Oh,
question is rooted in attachment and how we attach to people. So, I'm very excited to talk about it because this has explained so much of my life. This explains just kind of how I handle my day-to-day life, but it also speaks to how I handle my relationships. So, I'm excited to talk about it. It doesn't feel like I'm excited to talk about it because my brain is like, there are five different things that we could say. Go. And so, of course, none of them are coming out of my mouth at the moment because I feel like there's a lot of different ways to attach it. So I am going to go a little sciencey in the beginning, but then we're going to land in story experienceville, which I am
hmm.
very excited about. So, first things first, in case any of you were wondering where in the heck attachment theory has even come from, I'm not going to give you the dates. We will drop the Wikipedia article, which you can look at because it was a rather fascinating read. Attachment styles actually started, I want to say it was the 1970s. So apparently I am going to give you a
Hmm.
date, but don't quote me on it.
Don't quote you on it.
And it started because some scientists were trying to understand children and caregivers, and they wanted to understand how children connected to caregivers, and basically looking at childhood development and why children developed differently. Why were
Hmm.
some children very confident? Why were some children very anxious? Why were some children very avoidant? And so they, as we said last week, a lot of our development happens from 0 to 5 years old. So they wanted to see in those early childhood years what in the heck was happening that children could present so differently. And then you give it a decade or two, and they started doing more research going, the things that they see with children and caregivers are also what they see in adult relationships. And so they were able to extrapolate that attachment styles that are formed as children with caregivers are sort of how you operate in the world for the rest of your life. Caveat, as we spent a lot of time talking about synapses and brain development, your attachment style can change over time, but you need to be aware of what your attachment style is now. Awareness is key in everything that we've talked about. Pretty much literally everything we've talked about, awareness is key. If you don't know that what you're doing isn't working, or if you don't even know what you're doing, it's really hard to change it. It's really hard to make changes if you have no clue what's going on. So, my hope in our discussion this evening, so we took you through casual and serious dating. We took you through courtship. We took you through, I'm sitting here, well, we haven't yet because you guys haven't heard it. You will.
We haven't gone through there. Yes. Yes.
Once we posted them, you will have gone through all of those things. And then we, so courtship and then engagement and then marriage. And in my mind, the foundational thing of all of those things is attachment style. So if you don't know whether you're anxious, if you don't know whether you're avoidant, if you don't know whether you're fearful, disorganized, and you don't know what your partner is, things are happening in your relationship that do not make sense. Because you might have a partner who seems to love you wholeheartedly one minute and is running away from you the next. And you're like, what's with the teeter-totter people? Or you
Is
might
that,
have
is that an official designation? Teeter-totter people.
yes, what's with the teeter-totter people? Well, I meant like what's with the teeter-totter people, but
Oh,
also
I
like
was like, oh, there's teeter-totter people over there.
but there are
Like,
teeter-totter people. They're actually the smallest group of the population.
yeah.
So this is my teaser. I will actually give you the terms and the definitions in a minute, but it's way more fun to just kind of get you thinking about people that you've met. Because you have the people who are hot and then cold. This is Katy Perry's song, Hot and Cold. Like you're in, then you're out, you're up,
That's
then
our
you're
pop
down.
culture reference for the session. Yes, for our
You have
podcast.
to have them.
Yeah, right.
So, that's disorganized or fearful attachment. And that's people who are all in one minute and then you become vulnerable and you get close and they get the heck out of Dodge because they're terrified of vulnerability. Or you have the people who are just anxious all the time, seeking validation. This is where Spencer and I come in. And I've got some stories.
In walk
Um,
Spencer and Allison, the
ta-da!
anxious ones.
The anxious
That's
one.
why we are anxiously engaged in this podcast.
Exactly. The anxiety is growing everywhere.
Oh,
And that's where constant need for validation and reassurance comes in. And so your partner is showing up in all of these ways and then checking in and going, am I enough? Is this okay? Did you like this? Did you not like this? And then you have the avoidant ones, which people pleasers generally follow into this, not follow, fall into.
fall into like a deep hole.
They follow you to fall into this deep hole, which is not wanting to be truly vulnerable, not wanting to connect because what if you're hurt? And so that's kind of our broad overview. And then you have secure attachment. These individuals are very confident. They feel confident leading their own lives. And with that confidence in leading their own lives, they make vulnerable connections with you. So they're not dependent on your pleasure or displeasure. They do enjoy connecting with you, but they're going to go do their thing because of that confidence that they've developed. So that is our 4 relationship styles. Now, but wait, there's more.
Oh, do tell.
You can also have anxious avoidant. So like these are on sort of a spectrum. Not what Spencer said last week, but these are on a
Hey,
spectrum. I
watch
edited
out
out.
there.
I want you to know.
Thank you for saving. Yeah, the critics are just raving right now.
So they're on a spectrum, so anxious avoidant in my mind is kind of like ADHD and autism. They're the
Hmm.
same neurodivergence sort of thing, but they can present in different ways.
Hmm.
Anxious and avoidant. And maybe this is just because I'm an avoidant anxious and my partner is an anxious avoidant, which basically
Wow, you
means,
guys square each other off then. That's pretty good.
yeah, we've basically spent a whole crap ton of our relationship chasing each other because, um,
Are you guys
and
tired yet? You worn out? Probably
some
burned
days.
lots of calories. Just saying.
Oh yeah. Some weeks are much longer than others because our triggers trigger each other.
Yeah.
One of us has a fear of abandonment, the other of it. Now, when I'm saying these things, when I'm like, you have an abandonment wound, or you have a rejection wound, or like you have a fear of this or a fear of that, we all have all of these things. As
Hmm.
as Spencer and I are very fond of saying, um, life leaves marks. And so we all, for reasons, some reasons or others, have abandonment wounds. We all have rejection wounds. We all have fear of taking up too much space wounds. Unless there might be one person on the face of this planet who doesn't. His name's Jensen Ackles, and he can do all the things. Um,
That real person?
yeah, no,
I
he plays
oh
Dean in Supernatural, and
oh,
he's
that's like
also a
I don't
singer,
know.
and he dances,
Oh,
and he
okay.
does he does all of the things. Anyway, I'm fangirling just a little bit. Um,
More
he
pop
just
culture reference.
Spencer, you need to get out more.
I
This is
do.
what this tells
I
me.
do. I do.
Until we get to our Disney episode that's coming up next
Oh,
or
and then I'm
soon,
I'm all over that.
then you've got that pop culture and I'll be so far behind. Um, so he claims he doesn't have wounds. I have questions. He acts too well for me to think that he doesn't. But
Mm.
anyway, some of us have much more confidence in just going out and putting ourselves out there than others. But I still think we do all have wounds, and those wounds affect how we attach to people. So when I say she has a this wound and I have a this wound, I'm not saying that's our only wound, but the bigger and deeper they are, the more that they affect your worldview.
Yeah.
And so therapy gets a really bad rap
Yeah,
because
we do. Stinking therapists.
well, because there's sort of this feeling of my child or my partner or whoever was fine until the therapist came along, and now all of a sudden it's all my fault and I'm an awful person.
It's because can I just jump in there?
Please
It's
do.
because we open up Pandora's box, and the freaking insurance company only gives us 6 sessions in order to put everything back in the box,
Mm-hmm.
and it's almost freaking impossible to do that. And oh yeah, mental health in America,
It's
what a
insane.
screwy. Yeah, I mean, I'm not talking about therapists, but I'm talking about, I mean, just yeah, we do. We open up a lot of these things, and when you're talking about attachment, we're trying to figure out where people fit and where they've got one, foot in one place, one foot in another place. And then once we get it all diagnosed, then we have to try to, piece it together and help it make sense to the client. And then we need to start solving some of the problems and that takes more than 6 stinking sessions, folks. I don't know how these EPAs and stuff got, we're only going to give you 6 sessions of therapy. Yeah, like that solves what? I don't
Nothing.
know. Anyway, I digress. Go on, you're saying?
No, but I appreciate that because, and people say, well, I don't want to go to therapy because it's just going to stir stuff up. The
Yeah.
thing is you can spend your life faking it and white knuckling it and gritting your teeth, not understanding why things are hard, not understanding why things are painful, not understanding why stuff just isn't working. And you've kept a nice tight lid on it and nothing crazy has happened and you're fine. You're all fine. Well, as we've learned from the Italian job, fine really means freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. There is your fourth culture reference for the day. You're welcome,
Wow. And
Spencer.
we're only what, 10 minutes into this? That's pretty good. I'm impressed.
I'm on a roll.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, but whenever you hear, have you ever heard someone say, I'm fine? And
Yeah.
you're literally ticking off in your head, well, are they freaked out? Are they insecure? Are they neurotic? Or are they emotional right now?
I think
Generally,
there's
it's
a
one of
whole
them or
song about I'm fine in Encanto somewhere, and I'm like, yeah, no, you're
none.
not. Nope.
You were
No, you're
so
not.
not.
Pretty song, but no, you're not.
And for me, I would rather get stuff stirred up to find out why I'm fine, why I'm only fine, why I'm at the bare minimum of survival instead of doing well or instead of doing fabtabulously, whatever it is. Like this life is meant to be lived with joy, not to be white knuckled.
Hmm.
This is not a shameless plug for therapy. Apparently it is. It's not where I meant to start. But my point for bringing it up was therapists get such a bad rap for blaming family members. That's not the intent of therapy. The intent of therapy is let's understand why you do what you do. And a fantastic way to find that out really fast is to
Hmm.
figure out traumatic core memories.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
Inside Out does this brilliantly because it shows, I can't even remember her name right now, failing miserably, but
Which
it
one?
shows
Riley?
Riley, thank you.
Riley. Yes.
Riley.
Uh-huh.
It shows how core memories color us
Hmm.
and how as we grow and we develop, you can feel multiple things at once. So therapy is actually teaching you how to feel multiple things at once. And one of the ways that you start on this journey is understanding the wounds that exist that affect how you attach to people. The biggest thing that blew the lid off my therapy journey was when my therapist went, have you considered this? And I was like, heck nah. And he gave me a little questionnaire and a little quiz. And he didn't really explain it. Wise choice on his part, because I would have burned the
Right.
questionnaire and I wouldn't have
Good
taken it.
therapist, like, here, take this quiz. I'm not going to tell you anything about it. Just take the quiz.
Just take the quiz and tell me what you think. And in taking that quiz, I got to realize that the life I thought that I was living and the life I had actually lived were two very different things. And the thing that I want to emphasize is we can have trauma and people were doing their best. We can have painful wounds and people were showing up the best that they could. I think there is sort of a tendency in the world we live in that's so divisive. It has to be someone's fault. We have to blame someone. We're all humans. We are all humans doing the best that we have. Me having a rejection wound isn't because I was raised by awful people or everything about my life was bad. That's not the case at all. It's there were certain things that didn't happen or couldn't happen because my family had their own stuff too. And what happened with them did kind of mean that now I have stuff that I get to deal with, which is not always my favorite. But the more you know, the more power you have for change. You have to understand how your synapses are wired in order to rewire them. And so, my hope in our discussion today is to give you some information about how you might be wired. Now, not a clinician. Spencer, not a clinician. Neither one of us are accredited, licensed, authorized to diagnose you with anything. That's not our intent. So, full
Nope.
disclaimer here, we've done our legal due diligence, not clinicians. But
And we need to add, you as the listener, as much as we love you, you're not a clinician either. But as you listen to this, if there's something that kind of rings true to you, please don't, shove it aside. Don't ignore it. Don't bury it down deep down. Just, I don't know, consider it. Think about it and think, okay, maybe there's some work that I could be doing or need to be doing.
So ask questions and get curious. What we provide today is simply scratching the surface of a variety of options and things. So please just get curious. That's really what I'm inviting, hoping for all of us to do, because curiosity is where it starts. I could have very well burned that test and went running to the hills. Instead, I took that test, ended up cutting off my family, getting a divorce, rebuilding my life, reintegrating with my family, and getting a partner. So, you never know where the journey
Wow.
might take you.
You
And
never know. One little test.
as you all turn off this episode and don't
Yeah,
come back,
we're done. 15 minutes in, click.
we're just done. But hey, we made it to the 15-minute mark. Um, Maybe I'll be going back and editing that out later because I don't mean to scare you and change is hard. But my biggest plea for this would be if you were feeling a nagging sense of discomfort, learn more, ask
Hmm.
more questions because life can be lived fine where you're repressing everything and suppressing everything and hiding from things, or it can be lived joyously and connectedly and vulnerably and awesomely.
Hmm.
Ultimately, it's your choice. So, our hope today in discussing all of this is to help you find more joy and live at an exemplary level. So, now that I've plugged the podcast shamelessly, let's go.
Awesome. Can I just
Oh, please
repeat
do.
one thing that you said? I want to reemphasize this because I think this is huge before we get into this discussion. I really liked what you said when uh, we're talking about, first of all, no child comes out of childhood unscathed. That is just and if you sit back and think, no, my life is fine, I'm great, that's good, but you still didn't come out unscathed.
Mhm.
Okay. There's still things that you could work on, things that you could probably improve or become better. And hopefully everybody wants to reach that. But we also want to keep in mind too that the other people that were involved in this process, the other people that were involved in raising you, like your parents, once again, they did their best. Folks, you did not come with a manual. You did not come with a big book of do's and don'ts. You did not come. And even if you did read every book that was out there, even if you were a child psychologist, even if you got all of the education out there, as a parent before you became a parent, and you tried to do everything right, nobody comes out of childhood unscathed. And that's what I want to really emphasize right there is we have to send a little love and forgiveness and give credit to mom and dad, or dad and mom, or grandma or grandpa, or whoever raised you or had a real part in your growth and your development, namely your development of your attachment style, that we're going to be talking about today. And they did the best they possibly could under the circumstances. I mean, there are national tragedies. There are, there's always a fire someplace that needs to be put out. There's always something going on. But at the end of the day, it's so crucial and so important to keep in mind that we need to give them a little gratitude for the positive things that they did, for the helpful things that they did. At least they tried and they tried their best. All things considered, in the time period in which you were raised, all those different things, all of that matters when we're talking about these attachment styles. So I love it. Now let's talk about it. Now let's dive into the meat and potatoes here.
Thank you. Well, and I think it is important for us to take the time to set this foundation because the more you learn, the more you're going to feel stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it is a powerful thing to be able to sit with, dang, I wish that could have been different. And they did the best they could. And that has been a struggle for me for the last 6 years of my life of, wow, that could have gone so much better.
Mm-hmm.
And wow, they still held it together. And so I want to hold space for that, and I want to hold space for you. Let yourself be angry,
Oh,
let yourself
thanks.
grieve, let yourself be bitter, let yourself feel all the stuff. And then as you feel all of the stuff and you give space for all of the stuff, also invite yourself to sit with and let yourself sit with the and. Because I have learned if you repress your feelings, they hold on longer and they
Oh,
drowned
yeah.
you. And it's
Oh,
great. So feel your feelings, and I hope that, and Spencer, as Spencer just said, we hope you also can land in the ant. We're not here to villainize anyone. We're not here to say that anybody is awful. We're just saying stuff happened, and people did what they could, and now stuff is happening, and you have the chance to do what you can do. And our hope is just that we get to keep improving as we go. So,
yeah.
as part of that fantastic improvement, let's jump into anxious, preoccupied attachment. We're gonna
Wow.
we're gonna end insecure because my philosophy is very few people are actually insecure all the time. I think secure is sort of like getting to secure attachment is a journey, just like healing is a journey.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you heal, the more you take steps towards secure attachment. So I want to have that land last. So we'll get there. Even though everything I've ever looked at starts with secure attachment, that seems like a wild eye when pigs fly kind of thing. So we're starting with anxious. Anxious preoccupied attachment is a form of attachment where individuals view themselves negatively and feel unsure about trusting others. This attachment style creates a sense of gaining validation through relationships as a form of self acceptance. These individuals seek intimacy but fear that others do not want to be with them. And this style was created in childhood, likely because the caregivers this style was created in childhood, likely because the caregiver's availability to the infant was sporadic and being sometimes emotionally unavailable. So there was a lack of consistency. That lack of consistency then caused the infant, toddler, youth, child to not be able to consistently rely on this person showing up for them. And so that's where, to answer, after 25 minutes, we have answered Spencer's question, which is why do we need validation? The adults in our lives, the caregivers in our lives, are our main source of validation when we're growing up. They and their reaction to us is what teaches us how to offer ourselves self-validation. So if they are not consistently showing up and validating us and telling us that our emotions make sense and it's okay that we're sad or we're mad or we're frustrated, if they're not there saying, I see you and I love you and I care about you no matter what, that's not shown to us how to do that for ourselves. This goes back to the synapses idea. We build synapses based on our experience. And so if we didn't experience that, or we experience that only sporadically, our brain has no idea how to do that for ourselves.
Hmm.
Psychology person, what would you add?
So I'm so here's some good active listening. So what you're saying, Allison, is
Exactly.
because my caregivers or caretakers, my parents, as it were, and I would say extended family members too,
Hmm.
because I mean you can gather this from other people, but for the most part, the people in my life did not sit back or sit down and say, "Hey Spence, it looks like you're frustrated about something. Let's talk about it." Or they never sat me down and said, "Wow, Spence, you look like you're so, happy about that's great. Tell me about this happiness. Why are you so happy and what's going on with that? And hold on to that happiness and stuff. So essentially, coming from a home that talked about emotions. In fact, it's so funny. Our kids are like, "Oh, here we go. We're gonna have another talk about emotions." Like, well, yeah, because we want you to be able to, feel okay at the end of the day, and we want you to be able to regulate yourself. One of the things that I think of too, which is really interesting, as a newborn, you coddle that newborn and you take care of its needs and stuff like that. And eventually you want them to be able to take off on their own, right? You want them to be able to walk on their own. You want them to, there's certain milestones in life. And we look at those physical milestones like they walk, they start talking, then we're potty training, right? All those different things that come up. But sometimes we don't always sit back and think, okay, we're setting the stage for their mental development, because how many of us, go around and talk about, so how mentally stable are your kids today?
Well, because the joke is toddlers, the terrible twos,
Yeah.
the tween threes or whatever, and
Hmm.
and so I need to be kind to parents, because parenting is hard. I have not had that experience. I've watched my siblings go through it. They're still in the thick of it. And any given day, your child is telling you painfully truthful things about your appearance or your emotions,
Yeah.
or they are squalling because they can't find a shoe that they themselves put down 2 minutes ago, or because they don't want to go to sleep, even though they're falling asleep in their spaghetti.
Hmm.
So to be clear, like childhood is hard. Parenting is hard in the stage. It's hard in every stage. I'm sure you'd say that, Spencer.
Yeah.
It comes with its things. But I think sometimes we focus so much on children are hard
Hmm.
that we miss that there are ways to look at it to help it be easier. And
Yeah.
so we just focus on, oh, it's hard instead of how much am I working against my child to do what they are like their brain is developing to do. Um, because I think where you're going, so I'll try not to steal this from you too much, is
Oh,
the
you're good.
brain also has emotional developmental stages,
Yeah.
and like rebelling is one of them.
Yeah.
And going off on their own is one of them. And
Hmm.
so if we are fighting them on doing what their brain is naturally instinctively trying to do, it gets harder. Anyway, sorry, please continue,
Hmm.
Spencer.
No, you're so spot on. And that's the thing. The biggest robber of this is time or the lack thereof. And if we grow up in homes where we have us parents who are dealing with a whole heck of a lot, you've got work, you've got extracurricular activities, you've got community events, you've got, kids that are running from one event to the next. You're busy, and busy lives do not necessarily lend to, oh, let's stop. Let's talk about this. Let's see what's going on and happening. And that's when we get into that. We have parents that are all about we got to be here and it's more important that we show up and everybody's all put together and everybody looks right rather than all right, my child is having a knockdown, drag out, panic attack or fit right here in the middle of the store and maybe giving them space or even, and this is another big buzzword here too, is safety, right?
Mhm.
We don't allow these safe places for kids to express themselves. And we have some older generations, I will say, that tend to sit back and say, "Oh, well, I see my kids creating these safe places, and my grandkids are wimps, or they fall apart too easily, or all these different kinds of things." In actuality, what it is that they are experiencing things that are going on and happening in their minds. Probably things that you even, some of you boomers, never really had the chance to experience either when you were a kid. And so, yeah, time robs us of that. If you had, we used to have back in the decade, and by the way, this, I know Allison said this started in the 1970s. It actually started attachment styles kind of evolved out of the 1950s into the 1960s and was really popular and became most popular in the 1970s. So you're definitely right about that. But in the 1950s, a lot of single earner, one earner, income
Hmm.
homes were found in America. Now there's not, unless you absolutely can't make it any other way. So there again, there's a lot of things that rob us of the time and the space and the opportunity to allow kids to have these moments, these neurological moments that they need to in order to express, and the mental capacity for us to be able to sit back and say, "Oh, hey, you're having a fit. Okay, sounds like something's going on. Let's talk about it. Let's use what words you have, depending upon what age, and work through this." And if we do, then that becomes more helpful. If we don't, then that becomes a problem and an issue. And here's what's interesting. Now I'm realizing this. We're probably going to do like one attachment style for every episode by the time we're done with this.
Okay, we're
Be,
trying for two. We're gonna
yeah, try
try to
try for two, and we'll get so far. So yeah. Anyway, I'm going to turn it back to you because I do agree that there's a whole bunch to unpack here, folks. When we talk about each of these, and there again, we're just giving the basics. So
as you can tell though, we also have a lot of feelings about it because if you can't tell, um, what we experience in childhood has affected us greatly in how we view the world, and it affects each of us in how we view the world. So the more that we understand, the better off we are to get the tools we need. My one addition, we're still not going to get to it. We're getting closer. Um, the other piece though that I want to add is generational trauma is also very real.
oh
We
yeah,
are
yep.
what I would say now, if you disagree with this, please put it in the comments. Please be kind. We are the first generation though that has time to support our children in creating safe space and helping them face feelings. My argument for this theory being, if you look at our great grandparents, my grandmother, so she's in her 90s, was coming of age in the Great Depression. So like this is my grandmother was coming of age in the Great Depression. And so her experience growing up was all of their relatives coming to live with them because there was nowhere else for them to go.
Hmm.
And so their house was full of people. Some stuff went down with some of those people. Her parents were very busy trying to like help them all survive so that they would have food. And after the Great Depression, well, before the Great Depression, you have World War One. So you have the Great War that was supposed to be the war that ended all wars. And so you had an entire generation of people going from horses racing at each other, shooting at people across the battlefield, to trench warfare, to mustard gas, which is a horror all of its own. You hit the Great Depression. Then you hit World War II. You have the atrocities that happened during World War II. A year out of that, Korean conflict begins, becomes the Korean War. Half a decade after that, you have the war in Vietnam. Then you enter into the Cold War. And so my father grew up, my mother grew up in homes that had known poverty, that had known scarcity, that had known fear. So you're raised in that. That's what you know. You don't know
Yeah.
anything different. You're in a generation of people who don't know anything different. And then you grow up in a world where the radio is saying there's going to be a nuclear war, but you're going to be safe hiding under your desks.
I do remember those drills. I just want to tell you.
I was born right around the end of the Cold War. It's just changed colors and people and places, let's be honest.
True,
And it's a lot
true.
more hot now than it was during the year that I was growing up. But anyway,
Hmm.
my point being, for the last century, stuff has been going down. And so the family members who raised us grew up in a time of scarcity and grew up in a time of survival mindset and fear. And so when your kid is throwing a fit, you're not sitting there going, how can I create emotionally safe space for you to feel stuff? You're going, if we're going to eat, I have to get to work.
Yeah.
If we're going to be okay, I have to do these things. And so I just want to honor, like we have come through from a lot and we've come
Hmm.
through a lot. And so now that we're in a place where there are more conveniences and I would say more dangers, having just seen um Toy Story 5 and its discussion around technology, like bullying on technology.
Wow.
Sweet mercy.
I am so jealous. I haven't seen it yet. Darn it.
So good. So worth it. Do it, Spencer. But the point being, it feels like we don't have any more time. And so if you're feeling stressed out, I'm not saying you're lazy. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying we do live in sort of a place and time where we can create that safe space, in ways that maybe we're not able to be provided before. But also, let's be realistic, the world is on fire. And so if you're really overwhelmed, that's fair, which is why we're trying to give you tools to help support you when the world is on fire. So please just know, no judgment here. We're doing the best that we can. Everybody is. Let's dive into developmental stages of childhood. Nope, Spencer, go. We are
Sorry.
not getting out. We are not getting out of
One thing
ancient
I know
attachment.
we what darn it, yeah. But I think it's important to add one more level to it too. So my family, for example, was in one of those situations where not only is there all different kinds of things that are going on in the world, and you mentioned a lot of great ones, you know, as your grandparents were raising your parents. But there's also a whole bunch of things that are happening inside the home. So, for example, I have a child who's a cancer survivor,
Mm.
you know, and so while we were going through cancer, yeah, there were times that I could not sit down with the other kids and really have some of those conversations. Would I have liked to? Yes. Did the timing of things work out? Well, no, it happens and your world is turned upside down and you have to jump. So whether, you know, you were dealing with a major job loss, if somebody had a major illness in the home, if there was, you know, drugs or alcohol abuse, if there was other things that were going on and happening, there's a whole truckload of things that were probably also happening inside of the homes on top of the wars and on top of the other things. So there's another dimension there. There's a whole another level of things that's going on and happening that we also need to say, hey, parents, you know what? You did your best under the circumstances because it was hard. It was really, really hard. So give yourself some, you know, credit, give yourself some gratitude
Mhm.
because you did do the best you possibly can. And that's why after, you know, after the trauma, after the rippling effects of major issues like that are concerned, that's when we need to go back and that's when we need to create those situations. Even if your kids are adults,
Mhm.
even if your kids are adults, give them a call. Say, hey, I know we haven't done this before and this might seem a little weird, but how do you feel? How do you feel about life? How do you feel about things? You know, and create moments in which you can start to have those conversations and talk to your kids about what they're going through. And then just, you know, show some real pure empathy and that's going to help them pull themselves out of that anxiousness and move into other areas, other attachments and stuff that we'll talk about more about. But yeah, it's never too late. Is it hard? Yeah, change. I mean, that's one of the hard things to do is to fix the problems that were created back when they were, you know, birthed to 7 or 8. But it still can happen. We can still change.
I feel like I want to change the name of this episode. It's not set in stone yet, but I feel like the name of the episode should just be "Give Yourself Grace."
Yeah, there you
Um,
go. Right?
we
Everybody, just have some grace.
Well, because we started out this episode sort of, I think I started this episode from the perspective I have now, where it's like you can still correct things. Like you're in the midst of it still. You can engage differently. And I love that your message is it happened. It's that stage might be past,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not done. It's not
It's
gone. It's not
not too
over.
late.
I would give absolutely anything if my parents were to come to me and just say, "Hey, Allison, we're sorry."
Wouldn't that just go a long way?
It would go such a long way.
Oh, wow.
Like I love them. I care about them. We're rebuilding a relationship, which I'm so grateful for. How much it would soothe my heart if they would sit and say, "Tell us how you feel." And listen, not correct it, not fix it, not tell me how I'm wrong about it. Just sit and just say, "Please share with us how you feel." And so I think you might be pleasantly surprised if you were to try some of the things we're talking about now. ultimately, at the end of the day, relationships rise or fall on repair. I used to
Yeah.
think that if I was good enough, that's what made a good relationship. Like if I showed
Mm-hmm.
up 100% all of the time and if I was nice all of the time and I communicated the heck out of life, that's how you have a strong relationship. If I was a perfect partner, that's how you have a strong relationship. Nope, that's not possible. Not going to
No,
happen. Your kid
no.
gets cancer, a dog dies, you have to move, life happens, you get triggered the heck out of your mind,
You lose a job.
you lose a job, you're not able to show up the way you wanted to. It's not
Yeah.
about doing it right. It's about being willing to repair.
Mm-hmm.
And repair comes from accountability and changed behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe you missed the 0 to 7 window. Maybe you missed the 0 to 20 window.
Yeah.
It is never too late to attempt repair.
Yeah.
So what we talk about today is, okay, now that it's happened, how do you repair? How do we
Mm-hmm.
understand what's happened? How do we understand sort of the fears and the mindsets of other people and ourselves so that repair is even possible? So thank you for kind of tilting that on its axis for me, Spencer, because I
Oh
feel like
yeah.
that's a much more useful conversation.
Well, and I I hope everybody really listened to what you just said because we could put a whole lot of therapist, and I love my therapist brothers and sisters, I really do. Um, we could put a whole lot of therapists out of business if we simply did that as adult parents. Sat back, had a conversation, and said, you know what? You're right. I'm sorry. I did the best I could. I wasn't everything you needed me to be, but I tried. I tried my best. I fell flat on several different areas, you know. And I'm not here to make excuses. I mean, as parents, we're like, oh, we did the best we could. It doesn't matter. We know you did. That's fine. Okay. But the important thing is your kids' feelings, how they experience things, how they felt as they walked through these experiences. And like you said, you'd give anything for your mom and dad. And I bet there's millions of people on this earth right now that's going to listen to this podcast and go, yeah, you know what, Allison? I wish my parents would call me up, or I wish my parents would come to me and say, hey, you know what? I didn't do everything I should have done. I really should have been better. I really tried my best. I'm sorry. And I want to do whatever I possibly can to make it up to you. That doesn't mean you buy him a Maserati. It means you sit and you listen. It means
Here
that
comes
you,
that Maserati again.
yeah, right. You sit and you listen and you give time and we've said this before on this show. How do you spell love? Real, true, deep down love. It is Time. And we cannot, we can't mend bridges. We can't fix what's happened if we don't spend the time to love enough to shed off the ego, you know, um, walk away from the pride, all that stuff that holds us away from doing what Allison just said. I mean, if I had every single client, call me up and say, "Oh, my mom and dad just called me. We've opened up lines of communication again. We're talking and they're apologizing and they're understanding and they're giving me empathy, for how I was raised." Oh my word. Oh my word. What a new and different world this would be. I mean, truly, really, truly.
And for all of you hypercritical people who are going, do I have to like come crawling back to my child? No, that's not what Spencer or I are talking about. We're just asking for a listening ear. For yes, that makes sense that was hard.
Yeah.
Self-flagellation not required in this situation.
Nope.
Just time and an acknowledgement that makes sense to me that was hard and I'm sorry it hurt. That because we can't go back. We cannot go back to when I was 0 to 2 years old, and I don't need to. I don't want to. Me doing that work is IFS work, internal family systems work. That's what I get to do as an adult who wants to heal. We really do need to do an episode on that, but that's coming later.
Coming.
It's coming
More
eventually.
great things to come, folks. Hang in there. We've got so many topics to talk about.
But that's internal work. So when we look at like developmental stages of infancy, 0 to 2 years old, that's when, as a child, you're focused on attachment and trust. You're focused on building that relationship with the person who is everything to you.
Mhm.
And then early childhood, 2 to 6 years, is development of self-concept and social skills through interactions. So what you see with that main caregiver in your life is what teaches you how to interact with other people. And
Mhm.
it's what teaches you who you are. That's
Oh
that
yeah.
stage when I talk about trauma is what causes us to have a belief about ourselves or our worldview. That's kind of that sweet spot where that's happening. Of
Mhm.
our brain is learning, ooh, people interact with me this way when I do right things, or people interact with me when I show emotion this way. That's teaching our brain how we interact. And then when we hit middle childhood from 6 to 12 years old, that's where increased understanding of rules and social norms comes in, and we're applying what we received as young children out into the wider world. I am going to add one other piece in here. Generally, at 4 to 5 years old, Spencer, please correct me if I'm wrong. That is like 3, 4, and 5 is when you start rebelling. Like the reason why we call it the terrible twos, the awkward threes, whatever,
Mhm.
um, 3 going on 30, is that's when to develop that self-concept, you have to separate from your main caregiver.
Mhm.
And if your main caregiver goes, "Oh, I love you and it's so great. And yes, you spilled that dirt and that was less than ideal, but let me help you clean it up." And if you go and try these new things or you get mad or you're reactive, any of those things, those are part of your brain's natural development at that stage. And so if your caregiver is incredibly overwhelmed and stressed and frustrated and goes for control versus self-discovery, there are divergent things that happen. Um,
Yeah.
and that's actually where avoidant behavior comes from. I didn't
Mhm.
realize that was a bridge, but that is a fantastic bridge, so we're going to take it.
Oh yeah. No,
Unless you
it's
have anything
definitely
else, Spencer.
no, that's good.
Okay, so um, dismissive avoidant attachment is one of the main attachment styles and is often connected with a positive self view, but a negative view of other people. Individuals with this attachment style often avoid closeness and intimacy with others, and they typically suppress emotions and prioritize their own independence. This avoidant attachment forms as children when the infant's caregivers are dismissive to the baby and the child does not feel comfort. So, due to this, the child slowly learns to trust themselves over their caregiver. This continues into adulthood as these individuals pull away from others in order to control these emotions. So, I sort of said it incorrectly, but I have seen it play out sort of. I see avoidance kind of either creating because a family member showed too much control
Mhm.
and in some circumstances could even have abusive behavior. And so the child learns that what they feel and what they think and how they interact with the world does not matter. That on the flip side can also come. It's interesting to me that anxious and avoidant both can stem from neglect, because you either take it. So I think it's the consistency piece that matters. So if your caregiver is incredibly inconsistent, you become
Mhm.
anxious because one moment you thought you were enough, and the next, when they're not engaging, you feel like you're not enough. And so their attention to you gives you your worth and your value. And so if they're not paying attention to you, then you feel like you're less worthy and you have less value, which is why you're then seeking validation to try and show yourself that you have worth and you have value.
Mhm.
Avoidant individuals are because they were just consistently either so weirdly extremes, either controlling abusive behavior was happening or like consistent neglect was happening. Because either way, that child realized that what they thought and felt and experienced did not matter. And Spencer, you gave a fantastic example of this. Sometimes it isn't control or malicious intent at all. It's
Mhm.
our child had cancer. In order to get that child through treatment, we had to put a lot of attention and time into this.
Yeah.
And so I just want to be clear, these things happening are not malicious. Like they could be malicious. And if they
Mhm.
are, please get support. Please get help. please love on yourself. Um, if they were not malicious and it was life getting in the way, you are also still worthy of love and support. So please find love and support. But
You
just
bet.
please keep in mind, like we talk about abuse as though it's always malicious and violent and vicious and awful because the person was a horrible person. I think it is important that intention does not mean impact. My therapist says this to me all the time. You can have the best intentions in the world and you cannot control impact. And that's the message I think we're living in right now. You could be a wonderful parent with a heart of gold wanting to do your best, and the impact might not have happened the way that you hoped. And so it is important to offer ourselves grace because what we tried to do for really good reasons and really good aims might not have ended up the way that we had hoped. And our child might end up avoidant because they do not feel safe. They do not feel like they matter. And so this plays out. This plays out in a relationship. And this is where we live in Neeland. So I started by talking about how Spencer and I were anxious, like that this validation seeking is anxious attachment. I, though, also retreat to avoidant behavior because I'm like, how do I say this as delicately and kindly as possible?
Maybe you
I'm
might have
in.
to just say it and then walk it back.
There's less editing if I'm at least a little bit thoughtful.
Well, that's
Um,
true. Yeah.
I was a very flamboyant child from like the day that I was born. So picture me, sixth grader, going to school with a plaid slack pant on with a orange, like burnt orange, purple, and navy blue striped shirt with a woolen vest that had little speckles of extra color in it, is going to school. I had my sense of style. It was not a sense of style. So this was me. And like I give a clothing example because it's a relatively tame example, but I had a style and it was very flamboyant and clashy and loud, just like I am. I am very much put me in front of a camera, put me in front of a microphone, I'm at home. Am I always graceful? Am I always eloquent? Am I always well put together? No, but I'm in heaven and I love it. I hope that's coming through. I hope that's coming through for both Spencer and I. We love it, even if sometimes faux pas occur. And
And they
I,
do.
and they do. Um, I come from a very reserved family that believes you always put a well thought out foot forward, that you have very specific standards of behavior and there are very specific expectations. And so, though my family loved and cared about me, there was some clashes. We struggled with the independent, go my own way kind of thing.
Hmm.
And it led to me going, it's not safe for me to share what I actually think. It's not safe for me to be excited. It's not safe for me to be myself. Which has led to some fun things as I found a partner and as I found more parts of myself that I hadn't known before, um, trying to live that tug of war. And so I found that it was easier to keep things to myself, to keep my excitement to myself, to keep my dreams to myself, because I just sort of had experiences over time that was like, that's not safe. So now I have a partner who's like, tell me what you're excited about. And I'm like, I did a thing at work today.
That's not uncomfortable.
Um, and instead of me saying, well, I'm recording this awesome podcast tonight, and we just hit 28 subscribers, and like things are happening, and it's awesome. Instead, it's like, I did a thing at work today because my excitement is my vulnerability.
Yeah.
And so that would be my invitation for you as you are considering anxious or avoidant or disorganized. How comfortable are you sharing what's actually going on inside your mind and your heart? Now this isn't it. I love Spencer. You're just
No,
like, nope,
no, don't
no,
make me do it.
definitely not. Um, and it's always been interesting in therapy where I am happy to share the big stuff. Like I am really happy to like my first date with my current partner. We went to a straw maze and then we went to a restaurant and ordered a family size of French fries, and we talked for 3 hours, and we swapped all the stories. I'm like, yeah, and this my family da 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 da, and my family da 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 da, and guess what? I'm a divorcee, and she's like, and guess what? Da 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 da. So like, I can talk. Like me sharing stuff isn't hard. I can get vulnerable in the classical sense, in the sort of cultural sense, very easily. That's not I don't know, maybe you've noticed. I,
Yeah, maybe just little.
um, but if it comes to things that bring me joy, if it comes to my needs, if it comes to deepening connection, that scares me. Because what if I get rejected? What if someone sees this beautiful thing about me that is so precious to me and they don't think that it's beautiful? What if to them it's just run-of-the-mill Tuesday and here I am offering them this gorgeous thing? What you thinking, Spencer?
Yeah, no, I'm just like, yeah, sounds a little like me.
So this is why we're not ever just one attachment style. You can combine things. You will have different wounds from different ages and different reasons that impact this.
Let's just
Um,
admit it. We're all a mess, and we're
we're all
we're all a
we just
combination
are.
of a lot of different things.
We are all the things.
Yeah, we're complex.
Oh, I love this so much. Um, so s- I'm telling you, there's so much here. There's just so much here, Spencer. Um,
Hmm.
I want to touch on how anxiousness or avoidance affects the conflict styles we talked about last week. Because I feel like here's a natural, I know we need to wrap up. Oh, sweet mercy, I know we need to wrap up, but we're going to try and wrap it up in this little bow right here. It's going to be great. Um, but I have this idea for an invitation. Do it, not do it, think about it, don't think about it, whatever it is. Spencer, this is for you. This is also for the millions of people who are out there that can hear this at some
Love
point.
it. Story time. Here we go.
Well, the invitation is simply thus. What is the thing that scares you the most? Are you like when you're having an interaction with someone, what's the thing that makes your heart stutter? What's the thing that makes your hands clammy? Once you start noticing that, that is a hint to a wound. That is a hint to a belief. And so if you choose to take this invitation, you might have you'll have one that shows up the most. The one that has shown up for me the most is this fear of rejection. Is this fear of if I tell you what I really need, if I tell you what's really important to me, and if you don't engage with it, I'm not enough. If you don't engage with it, then I'm flawed and I'm unlovable. That's a lot to put on your partner.
Oh, good heavens. Yeah. My wife reminds me too several times. I'm just saying.
And so and that's why this exercise is so important. This is why this invitation can matter and make such a difference, because if you don't know that that's what you're doing in an interaction, you have no clue what you've just blown up in your
Nope.
relationship, like what you've blown up inside yourself. So
Yeah.
for me, we talked last week love languages. We haven't touched on love languages today. Those are pretty much out there. Google it, you'll find it. The
Yep.
reasons why love languages matter, though, is there also a hint at what your wounds and your needs are? Because if you never felt seen as a child by the gifts you received, it makes sense your love language is being seen with a gift. And that gift giving can be so fraught. Because if they picked up flowers on the way home for your 15th wedding anniversary, that might hurt a little bit when you've been through 3 cars, 4 kids, and 2 trees. I have no idea where the
Yeah.
trees come in, but and it makes sense that that might affect how you view your worth because you feel how your partner views your worth. Or if it is acts of service, if you have been a hard worker your entire life, taking care of siblings, emotionally taking care of parents, always the workhorse at work, and you ask your partner and you say, hey, could you help me vacuum? And they're exhausted and they're tired and they say no, what you hear is, I don't matter. I have to work to earn my worth. If you don't realize that's what you're doing, you don't understand that it's not about the vacuuming.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
you've externalized that what your partner says means something about you. So please just consider the next time that your heart is stuttering, your hands get clammy, your brain goes blank. What is that around? What kind of a conversation is it that you're having? Maybe it's a boss conversation, maybe a partner conversation, a family conversation. Whatever it is, take note of where that fear comes up because that's attached to a wound. That's attached to a thing that is very raw and painful for you. And I would love to hear if you want to email us, reach out on
Or leave a
Facebook,
comment
comment,
if you
leave a
want. Yeah.
comment. Um, and I say email us because maybe it's a little too raw for a comment, but also humanity, being human and being vulnerable does amazing things. So I would love to hear what that is because then that can invite you into understanding. It can invite you into, am I forcing my partner to meet a need that they don't understand is a need that I'm wanting them to meet? And ultimately is a need we can only meet for ourselves. We are the only ones that can love ourselves to heal that wound. We can have support, and interactions with partners can be healing in that sense, but it is our awareness that allows that healing to take place. So, if you're listening to that invitation and you're going, holy crap, never going to happen, what are you talking about, woo woo woman? Let's go for some easier low hanging fruit, which is what we talked about last week. Two of, we'll address the other ones next week, avoidance and accommodation. So, as you might have guessed, avoidance fits with avoidant attachment style. And the idea is my feelings and my thoughts don't matter, so I'm just not going to share them. So when your partner says, where do you want to go to eat? You say, I don't know, doesn't matter. And you keep those things, those thoughts and feelings to yourself. Or, well, what do you need right now? If you're anything like me, you're going to keep those needs close to your heart and you're going to say, I'm fine. And then 5 minutes later, you're going to be like prostrate on the couch, exhausted because you can't do anything more. But you were terrified of them being tired and not doing what you needed. Because then if they don't do what you need, then you know that they don't really love you and they don't really care about you and you'll never be seen and you'll never be loved. That's not a thought process I ever have. So, food for that. So, if you always just find yourself saying, oh, I don't need anything, oh, I'm fine, oh, it doesn't matter, that could be a signal that your brain is saying that your needs don't matter or that you have to take care of it yourself because no one else can do that for you. The other one is accommodation, and this is for our anxious types. These
Mm.
are for our, I just really want them to love me. And so if I don't take up too much space, then they'll love me. And so if they ask, I'll say what I need, but it's not a hill I'm going to die on. It goes back to the example from last week of do we want McDonald's or Culver's? And because you don't want to disconnect the relationship, because you don't want to be too much, you're not going to stand by, I really would like Culver's tonight. Though sometimes you really don't care, and sometimes it really doesn't matter. And so you let it go. And I think it's powerful and important to understand there are some things that don't matter. Like they're not, there's a difference between I don't really care about this thing in this moment versus it's not worth a fight. So that's my other invitation to kind of clue in. There is a difference between saying, I really don't care either way, versus, oh, I don't want to fight over this. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you don't have the energy. Sometimes it isn't worth it. Totally fair. We honor that. But if your go-to is, I don't want to fight over this every single time, hello, abandonment wounds. and and hello, I'm just terrified and I'm anxious. Now, the other piece I'll say really quickly in all of this is what happens when you put an anxious and an avoidant in a relationship together? Dear Spencer, what happens when you put an anxious and an avoidant in a relationship together?
Oh my goodness gracious. Well, one is anxiously worried about why the other one's avoiding him. One, I mean, just a level one right there.
Base
That's one
base
issue.
level right there.
Yeah, base level right there. But yeah, oh my goodness, there is a whole lot. There's two individuals that are really, really full of anxiety. Yeah, and probably even some depression too, because they're like there's even an element of lack of connection there between the
Mhm.
two. They can't get connected, and they feel like why can't I connect with my partner? Like, well, this is why.
Because the avoidant fears vulnerability and connection, and the anxious one requires vulnerability and connection to feel seen.
Yeah.
And the avoidant needs independence to feel safe. And so your anxious is going, don't you love me? And the avoidant is going, I love you from a distance. So the anxious is chasing, the avoidant is fleeing. And then if you have an anxious avoidant with an avoidant anxious, once the anxious one realizes the other person has fled, then they become avoidant because they were too much. And then they don't want to engage anymore. And the avoidant that was running because they were too afraid to be seen now feels too unseen. And now they are anxious because the person doesn't love them anymore. And then they chase. So
Folks, we will unravel you at some point in time in this show. I
we will
promise
get to you.
you.
If you have not heard yourself yet, just wait. But
Yep.
on that note, we probably should just wait. Spencer, if you were to too long didn't listen to this, how would you wrap all of this up?
Oh my goodness gracious. Well, this is how I would wrap things up. Attachment has four basic areas that we kind of step foot in, and sometimes we step a foot in more than one area. But essentially, when it comes down to it, learning about our attachment style helps us understand how we interact with those that are around us and how we fit other people's needs. Because when we're in a relationship, we have to figure out why we're not meeting the other person's needs. And that can be because we're avoidant or because we are, I mean, if we're secure, that's good. But anyway, it depends upon where we are on that spectrum and why things aren't coming together like they should or that we hope they will, and being able to discover the bits and pieces of who we are and why we have settled in this for the time being, attachment area, makes a huge, huge difference. Because then healing can start to happen. Then we can start to go, oh, okay, I fall in this attachment area. This is why. This is how I was raised. And because of that, I have to work on myself. And we'll we'll be talking down the line here about tools and tricks and tips and things to help you out. So don't just, I mean, stay tuned. It's coming. Hang in there. But we have to get through the nitty gritty in order to get through that. So anything you want to add? Anything I missed that you think was really, really crucial? Like, oh, Spence, you missed this. Let me say
Grace.
this. Oh, Grace.
Grace matters. That was
Yep.
the unexpected part of this conversation
She's
that
she's the leader of this conversation right here. Grace, where'd she go?
grace is required. You're not going to do things perfectly. You're just not. Like we're giving you information. Application is hard. So please offer yourself grace. And as we talk about secure attachment, there are a couple tools I'm excited to give you that can help in your self-healing and self-discovery, but also in like it's an actual concrete. It's called CPR. And it's how you can have conversations with people to set boundaries, which is really important if you're anxious or really important if you're avoidant, because you feel these things for a reason. We're not telling you you can't feel these things anymore. We're just saying this might be making your relationships a little scatterwampus, but what you feel makes sense. So we'll be offering some tools that can help you not have to deny what you feel and still improve a relationship. So, but the
Mm,
key piece, that's my preview for next time. The key piece though is grace, grace and repair. That's what I would love to call this. That's not probably what we're going to call it, but that's the takeaway. That's what
there
I
you
would love
go.
to put on a t-shirt is
There you go.
attachment style basically equals grace and repair. So
Yeah.
thank you for joining us. It's been exciting as always. Thank you for being
Always.
on this wild train ride. Spencer, take us home.
All right. We love to talk to each and every one of you individually and let you know how important each of you are to the stuff that we are doing here and the things that we're talking about. If you've had the opportunity to listen and you go, hey, maybe there's something I could do, or maybe you're like, no, I'm perfect as is, maybe you should, walk that back a little bit and rethink your priorities and say, maybe there's something that I could do to improve myself. we are talking to you because you are important to us. You are special and unique just the way you are because there's nobody else in this world quite like you. I miss Mr. Rogers so very much. That's one of the reasons why I love doing these is because you need to feel important. You need to feel loved. You need to feel validated. And hopefully you get some validation while you're here, while you're listening to this, while you're going through some of these thoughts and opening up yourself just a little bit more to some of the possibilities of what your mental health can unlock for you because you're worth it. You are worth it. You're worth every step of the road. You're worth learning about. You are worth growing and you're worth loving and you're worth all the wonderful, joyful, happy things that are a part of this life. So thank you so very much for being with us. And we'll look forward to talking with you again next time.